We will go to Mr. Scooterud for 5 minutes or less, please.
Thank you for inviting me. My name is Mikhail Scooterud. I'm a professor of economics at the University of Waterloo, the director of the Canadian Labour Economics Forum, and the Roger Phillips Scholar of Social Policy and fellow in residence at the C.D. Howe Institute. On my website, you'll find my disclosure statement. In it, I state, quote, as a researcher, I deliberately avoid advocacy, as I believe I can contribute more by seeking and disseminating objective evidence than in advancing agendas. For this reason, I have throughout my career declined funding from all organizations with explicit advocacy mandates or private interests. End quote. What are the facts on youth unemployment? The unemployment rate of Canadians aged 15 to 24 now stands at 14.7%. That's up from a historic low of 9% in the summer of 2022, but essentially unchanged from 1 year ago. It's also similar to the rate in 2012, lower than rates in the 2009 to 2010 period, and lower than an entire period from 1992 to 2000. Two more facts worth noting. 54% of Canada's unemployed youth in the most recent data were full-time students, and 61% were looking for a part-time job. Are we in a crisis? No. A return to the historical norm looks to me more like where we're at. What doesn't explain the recent increase in youth unemployment? First, I've seen no clear evidence that it's being driven by generative AI technologies substituting the work that our youth do. I'm also convinced that post-pandemic growth in the temporary foreign worker program is not the main culprit, although it probably hasn't helped. TFW numbers are too small and concentrated in markets where Canadian youth are mostly not competing for jobs. Exceptional growth in the population of current and former international students is probably playing a bigger role, but those numbers have been in sharp decline since early 2024, yet youth unemployment remains elevated. So what does explain the increase? Between April 2022 and April 2025, the number of low-skill job vacancies, that is, jobs that require a high school diploma or less, dropped from over 600,000 to less than 300,000. That's more than a 50% drop in 3 short years. Youth unemployment is not because young people are losing their jobs. It's because it has suddenly become much harder for young people to find a job. But is a decline in the demand for low-skilled labor a problem that the government should be worried about or trying to solve? Emphatically, no. In 2022, the dominant economic narrative in this country wasn't a youth and unemployment crisis, it was a labor shortage crisis. In hindsight, the government's efforts to address low-skilled labor shortages, especially on the immigration front, proved disastrous, to say the least. Labor market needs are a short-run business problem, not a problem governments need to solve. Tight, low-skilled labor markets should be celebrated and left for free, competitive markets to address through wage adjustments, labor mobility, and technological investments that boost labor productivity. What really matters for average economic well-being in the population is the mix of jobs that are done in the long run, which is determined by 2 main factors: technological change and labor supply. If you want a high-skill, high productivity, high wage economy, you need to prioritize boosting the average human capital of the population. On the immigration front, you do this by relying on a transparent, rules-based system that prioritizes the applicants who have the highest expected future earnings. On the education front, you do it by allowing slack, lower-skilled labor markets to incentivize young people to invest in their skills so they can better compete for higher-skilled jobs. In trying to do too much on both fronts, I worry that federal government policy will once again do more harm than good. Thanks again for the invitation, and I'm happy to answer questions.